Hello and welcome to the Adulting 101 video series. This is a quick version video. That means I'm going to keep the video itself to 15 minutes or less. But for you, it's going to be more interactive. Hopefully you have the notes that you're going to be filling in as we go along, and maybe also a digging deeper activity to practice afterwards. I'm going to invite you to pause after each slide. That'll give you time to write down what you learned, any thoughts or questions that came up for you. And then also if you're with a group, maybe you are with your family at home or with a class at school, that'll give you time to discuss the prompts in the lower left-hand corner. So it might say something like this: what is your purpose in learning about this topic today? Well, today's topic is social awareness. This is a key social and emotional skill. And the essential questions we're going to look at are: why is social awareness an important adulting skill? And what habits can I practice to increase my social awareness? If that sounds good, let's get into the big idea. All right, social awareness is considered to be one of the most important social and emotional skills for success as an adult. It can generally be described as an awareness of others. That includes active listening, so we'll talk about what that is, the ability to interpret social cues, so we're going to talk through some of those today, consideration of others' perspectives, empathy and concern for issues that primarily impact other people rather than just caring about issues that impact you, and gratitude and understanding. So why? Why do experts say that that's such an important skill? Well, research has shown that increasing your social awareness can have huge impacts on both your family and work life, including decreased conflict and discrimination, improved relationships with your family, friends, clients, employees, all of which lead to higher productivity both at home and at work, increased problem solving, research and development, and the better ability to predict the impact of actions on others. So today we're going to unpack habits that you can practice to increase your own social awareness. Sound good? All right, the first category of habits are in the category of respect. So respect is the appropriate regard for feelings, wishes, rights, and traditions of other people. So what are some things that we can practice in terms of respect? One of those is fair warning. If you know that you need to have a conversation with someone that could be challenging or difficult, don't just pop in and start the conversation. Give them fair warning. If this is something with your friends or family, you could ask them when and where they want to talk. Something like, hey, at some point this week, I'd like to chat with you about how we're going to pay for college. When would work best for you to have that conversation? Or in the workplace, that means that if you schedule a meeting, you make sure that the agenda is attached so everyone knows what topics are coming up so they can be prepared for what's going to be discussed. Another skill we can practice is giving space. Everyone has a different concept of personal space, conversational volume, and physical touch, and those are largely cultural experiences. So it's quite possible that you are comfortable standing closer, talking louder, or having more physical contact than other people are, or vice versa. You might like more space. So when in doubt, we always want to give a little bit more space than you think they need. Take a step back, drop your volume, and reduce physical contact. When you're having a difficult conversation, pay attention to the body language of the person you're talking to. Signs of discomfort include backing away, unsteady eye contact, blocking themselves, maybe crossing their arms in front of their body, leaning away, or comforting themselves, rubbing their arms, something like that. Signs of positive engagement include open and relaxed posture, crossing their legs towards you, maintaining good eye contact, nodding, and leaning forward. Okay, so what if you see signs of discomfort? What do you do? Ways that you can respond to body language. If it's a work situation, consider, do you really have to have this conversation right now? If someone's looking deeply uncomfortable, can you ask them if there's a better time to talk? Can you back up? Can you take a breath? Can you pause the conversation? If it's a social situation with a new person, maybe this is time to just walk away and leave them alone. They weren't comfortable with you approaching them. If it's a social situation with friends or family, maybe you pause the conversation, just ask them how they're doing, change the subject for a little bit, and see what's going on. Next, we're going to look at skills related to perspective. Perspective means a way of regarding something or a point of view, and all of us have different perspectives because we all have different experiences, right? So our first skill to respect perspective is active listening. When you engage with other people, You want to do active listening, which means you're listening in order to understand their perspective rather than arguing for your own perspective. It means that you paraphrase what you hear and check for understanding. What I think I hear you saying is that this situation is really uncomfortable for you. Is that right? And you remember that other people and other cultures are not trying to be like you and your culture. They are their own awesome person, and so are you. It's not your job to make them more like you or persuade them to think like you. It's your job to get to know them and what they are thinking. We can also practice decision making. When you need to make an important decision, make sure you consider the perspectives of other people who will be impacted. So once you've weighed out the pros and cons for you, ask yourself, who else could be impacted by this choice? Then go to those people and say, hey, these are some choices I'm looking at. What impact would this have on you? Don't tell them, hey, I think this is the impact it's going to be on you. Ask them for their perspective, not yours, and listen to understand their perspective, not to persuade them of the decision you already think you want to make, but to actually hear what's the true impact on them. Perspective can also be an important tool in dealing with social anxiety. If you feel anxious, insecure, or lonely in a work or social situation, take a step back and look around. Chances are there are several other people there who aren't connecting either. And if you can just for a moment say, okay, instead of worrying about my own social anxiety, what if I try to connect with someone else and help them feel welcome? Sometimes it helps them and it helps you as well. It gives you a sense of purpose, and that can help with the anxiety and insecurity. Next, we're going to look at skills that we can practice in terms of empathy. So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Okay, well, active listening is a part of that too, right? This is a really important skill for all sorts of social awareness. So as you engage with other people, if someone tells you a story, instead of saying, oh, that reminds me of something that happened to me, and changing the topic back to you, challenge yourself to ask more about their experience. If someone is sharing with you, wait for them to take, often if someone's telling a story, they'll take a big exhale and a long pause and be like, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. When you hear that, that means they're truly done and they're actually ready for you to talk. We never want to interrupt someone's story until we hear that big exhale and a long pause. Part of empathy is asking open-ended questions. We want to be cognizant to ask questions that allow others to share their own feeling rather than trying to predict them. So what does that mean? Instead of saying, hey, I know you're overwhelmed with everything right now, you could ask them, hey, what are you thinking about everything that's going on right now? Instead of saying, oh, you must be so glad that school is done, you could say, how are you feeling heading into summer? Instead of saying, oh, I'm sure you're really busy today, so I'll let you go, we can ask, what are you up to for the rest of the day? So we're trying to focus on actually asking an open-ended question about their life and perspectives rather than trying to predict what they're thinking or feeling. And that is a really good example of non-judgmental curiosity. If you've ever watched Ted Lasso, we talk about being curious, not judgmental. So focus on getting to know people in order to learn about and appreciate who they are, not trying to figure out if they have enough in common with you that you could be friends, not getting to know them so that you can persuade them to be more like you, not getting to know them to evaluate whether or not you approve of them, but just getting to know about who they are to appreciate who they are. The experiences that you were born into are valid and worth sharing. So are theirs, right? Every person is born into a different life experience and they have a different perspective based on that. And the world is full of diverse experiences and perspectives. It's not our job to force everyone into our experience, but rather to get to know theirs. All right, and one other skill we're going to look at is compassion. Compassion is recognizing the suffering of others and taking action to help. So how can we work on that? We can learn about actual issues. Learn about issues that do not impact you directly. Maybe this means hot button topics that are in the news or popular social issues that you say, even though I don't have any particular experience with this issue, I know other people do, so I'd like to learn. It could also be something really mundane, like someone might be sharing that the vending machines in the maintenance lounge quit working every time the Wi-Fi goes down. You can have compassion about that and say, wow, that must be really frustrating because the Wi-Fi goes down all the time. I'm so sorry. And then maybe you actually help figure out a solution for that. But challenge yourself to tune in rather than checking out when you hear people sharing stories that don't apply to you. Another part of compassion is withholding judgment. When you learn about an issue that does not directly impact you, challenge yourself not to immediately have a judgment or opinion about it. Instead, make some space to just listen to, understand, and elevate the voices of those who are directly impacted by that issue. That's called being an ally, right? That you say, this issue doesn't directly impact me, but I can learn about it, I can try to understand it, and I can elevate the voices of people who are impacted. As you work to be an ally for other people, keep in mind that there will be other issues later on that impact you, and you might be asking your friends and colleagues to be allies for you. And finally, a big part of social awareness is gratitude. Gratitude is being thankful, showing appreciation, and returning kindness. We can practice short-term gratitude. That means when someone hands you something, you say thank you, no matter what it is. If a teacher hands out papers, you say thank you. The lunch lady hands you a milk carton, you say thank you. If your friend shares a piece of gum with you, you say thank you. If someone hands you food, if someone ever hands you food, you say thank you. If someone hands you a gift, you say thank you. And if you're thinking, that doesn't feel authentic, I don't want that paper from my teacher, or I don't want that gift that somebody gave me, challenge yourself to consider, what if the opposite had happened? You might not like that test that the teacher's passing out, but what if they refused to give it to you and you didn't have an opportunity to earn your grade? I think you'd be pretty upset about that. You might not like the gift that your grandma knitted for you, but what if she forgot your birthday entirely? I think you'd probably be pretty sad. So we can always thank someone for thinking of us and handing us something. We can also practice long-term gratitude. As an adult, a key skill that I always recommend to everyone is have a pack of thank you notes in your desk drawer or in your backpack, in your bag. Once a month, ask yourself, who's had a positive impact on my life, and write them a quick note and say thank you. That might be someone at work, it might be someone in your family, it might be a friend. Professionally, and personally, pay attention to National Appreciation Days. Mother's Day, Father's Day, Teacher Appreciation Day, Boss's Day, Administrative Assistance Day, whatever you're working with in your job or whatever you're related to in your family, those are important people. Get used to sending them cards or sending them a text, or maybe you bring in a treat to the office, something like that. If you know that someone's working through, if someone helps you work through a difficult situation, send them a thank you email. You know where this comes up for me? Tech people. Tech people are always helping us in these moments that just make us want to scream and pull our hair out when our computer isn't doing what we want, right? It's sometimes very embarrassing how unhinged we can be when technology isn't working. So anytime someone helps me with technology, I try to make sure I send a follow-up email and say, thank you so much for helping me with that. Also, that might not have been a good look on me. I understand I might not have handled that well. It goes a long way to building work rapport and easing tension after a difficult situation. Another reason to practice gratitude, or another way to practice gratitude, is to replace apologies. There are some people who struggle with constantly saying, I'm sorry, dozens of times a day when they have not done anything wrong. They're just being human and taking up space. If you know that's you, if you know you're someone who's always saying, I'm sorry, and people are saying, what are you apologizing for? Think about switching the I'm sorries to thank yous. So instead of, I'm sorry, can I sneak past you? Could you say, excuse me, and then thank you? Instead of saying, I'm sorry for asking so many questions, could you say, thank you for helping me with my questions. I appreciate you. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, I can't go, could you say, thank you so much for inviting me. I wish I could make it, but I can't. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful to you. Let's check. Can you think of 3 takeaway ideas about social awareness? Can you think of 3 different skills that you can practice that will increase your social awareness? And can you think of one good explanation for why social awareness is an important adulting skill? Well, I hope that is helpful. Whether or not it is, this is part of the Social Emotional Skills collection. If that's helpful to you, or any of these other topics look helpful, these are all available as part of my Adulting 101 series. I wish you well. I wish you productive and effective relationships with other people. Good luck.